Okay, hello everyone. My name is Lisa. We'll be talking today about the closing of the generation gap. So I'm going to start off with a little video, just kind of get us going. So first I need to share my screen here, and then we will watch the video.
To make those cold calls. Cold calls? Seriously? Cold calls. If you guys were any more out of touch, we'd be sending telegraphs. If we want to reach our target audience, we need to be on Facebook, Foursquare, Reddit, Tumblr,
Oh my God.
Back in my
LinkedIn,
day,
Wikis,
This kid.
YouTube,
Oh my God.
no respect.
Oh my.
Whippersnapper,
No respect. Oh my.
young punk.
Who
Yo.
does he think?
Flickr.
Oh my.
Who does he
and
think?
Twitter. You know what the problem is? You're all afraid of taking risks.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You want to talk about a real risk? You want to talk about a real risk? We need to be on the web. We can send mail electronically without paying any postage. Seriously, you guys are so afraid to take a stand on the cutting edge.
Cutting edge? I'm the whetstone to your cutting edge client. Hey, I got you. Okay, that's great. I'm burning the midnight oil here, all right? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Great, love you, bye. Come on, guys. Knowing is half the battle. Yeah, focus groups are the new wave. Why are you guys so afraid of taking the brave step towards tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Let me tell you about tomorrow. I branded tomorrow. Oh, let me take that. Wake up, Jive Turkey. We need expense accounts. How do you expect this company to grow if you don't take any risks?
Risk? You don't think I've ever had to take a risk?
Son. I'll give you this loan, but I still think you need to play it safe.
Dad, I know I don't have a lot of money or experience in starting a company, but if I don't take this risk, how will I ever be successful?
Wow. I never thought somebody had to fight for the things I took for granted. So, how long did it take for your changes to go through?
Oh, forever. Have you seen how many forms we have to fill out just to buy a client a cup of coffee?
All these things cost money. This is an advertising agency, not a bank.
Sir, I'm just gonna throw this one out there, but all the stuff I just mentioned, free.
Let's do it.
Yes! So, does this mean you'll hire me full time?
We'll get back to you.
Okay. That was just kind of a fun video I found on the internet. I thought would be kind of really work with what we're talking about today, and which is the generation gap. And you can tell in that video you had really five generations that were represented. You had the younger gentleman, which was the millennial, and then you had the first lady that talked about, she was Generation Y, and then we had the guy with the phone, Generation X. Then we had the lady with smoking, like chain smoking, was your baby boomer, and then the older gentleman, we would have called him the traditionalist. And those are the five main generations that are currently in our workforce. I'm really only going to talk about 4 of the 5 because the traditionalists are they're only like 2% of in 2017 there were only 2% in our workforce right now, so it really isn't. It's kind of almost irrelevant, especially in today's age. I'm really going to focus on the boomers, the Generation X, Y, and the millennials. And to talk about generation gap, we first need to really define it. And I mean, Webster defined it as a, as how we look at each other, the differences that we have between age groups. But it's more than that. I think it's become almost a stereotype. You hear negative tones about, the older generation, they're not willing to change. You got the millennials, they don't care. And it's everybody's a winner, and then there's no challenges. And so it really almost becomes a negative thing, as opposed to what it should be, which is we really need to start looking at each other and realizing that knowledge is power, and everybody has a different knowledge and different value set. So let's talk about maybe defining some of the generations in more detail. The baby boomers, they were born between the years of 1946 and 1964. So they're definitely going to be our older generation within the workforce. So they're not as engaged anymore because they're looking more towards retirement. And these are the people that are in the last few years of the workforce, and they are less familiar with technology. They're basically not as tech savvy, excuse me. And those are the people that, when the younger generation comes in, they have the most clash. So then we move on to Generation X, which is more my age, but I am on the cusp. Just to let you know, I'm on the cusp between 70. I was born in 76, and so Generation X really ends in 76, and Generation Y begins in 77. I like to think I'm on the cusp of that. So, but the Generation X are, the 40 and aboves. They are, they've seen a lot of change in the workforce. They've kind of become more adaptable, and they're familiar with technology and are, willing to learn. They're a more independent worker. A lot of them were, the latchkey kids that growing up, they had parents that work, they weren't, they didn't need to have their hand held as much. And so their style is a lot more independent and adaptable. And then the Generation Y they're very technology sound. That's from the years of 1977 to 1990. We find them maybe challenging the authority a little bit more. The internet really began when they were in high school and in college. So the way they work is they're very Google savvy, and everything needs to be Googled. They're like, I learned that on Google. But they still also remember how to, use the library and do research outside of just outside of just Google. They can still look in books, and though we all can do that, but are more likely to do that. Now millennials, they're the new ones that are present in our workforce today, and they actually in 2017 they actually became the highest group working in today's workforce, which they beat out the Generation Xers, which, Xers, but they are in 35% of the workforce right now. And they're just getting out of college. They're hungry. But the way they have learned is very different. They live with, in technology world. They text, they instant message, that's how they Facebook, they Instagram. Everything is quick, and they need results right away. They prefer a more collaborative atmosphere, work as a team, that kind of thing. They like a more informal workspace. They're not suit and tie every day, like, where you've seen your, definitely your baby boomers, your Generation X's, they're more suit and tie because that's the way that they were taught, and when they came into the workforce, you dress for success. Now it's a little bit more leaning towards, business casual, and that's the way the new millennial prefer. All of these kind of are all what we see in our everyday office. I mean, everybody can probably, as you're sitting here and I'm talking, if you're thinking about your office, you could probably start thinking, oh, that's Sam, or, that's, Cindy, or, Fred, and you can start putting names and start going, okay, yeah, I do see that. And mind you, this isn't a hard, like anything else. I mean, there's obviously, there are very tech savvy, or technology savvy baby boomers. We're not saying that they are unable to. It's just, it's less likely to see that. And that's probably one of the biggest thing that makes this generation gap is the technology that has just developed. If you think back in 1984, there was only 8% of United States homes that actually had a computer. Only 8% of all the homes in the United States had a computer in 1984, as opposed to in 2010, 77% of homes had at least one computer, if not multiple. So then, you can just tell the difference, the way the world has changed, so when you look at that, that's going to show you why there's such a gap. The problem is that no one's doing anything to mend that gap, because I don't know if you can actually close it completely, but absolutely we can, at least, bring it down to where it's almost non-existent. But that has to start with management, and management is key. They have to take a step back and look at how we are treating each other and make some changes. I think that's what's going to change. We have to learn that instead of working against each other, we need to work with each other. We need to work with creating an environment that is positive, so it can allow everybody to come together, mix and match your generations, do some training sessions with the different people and try to, you get that collaborative atmosphere, which many people like, and you're still learning. And I think that what we need to do is you have to recognize the differences that we do have and give the people a chance to get rid of the conflict and say, yeah, you learn differently, but I can learn this from you. Create a mentoring program. I know our office did that. The California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, which used to be the Board of Equalization, we have a mentoring program, and it matches people who are in the management level with someone who wants to get there, and they help show them the way. And I think if we, rather than just see the differences and we have management create programs like this, it's going to allow us to relate to each other better and to realize that we're all in the same boat, and the same goal is for our business or organization to succeed. No one wants to fail. You don't want to go to work and go, God, I hope I fail today. No one does that. You want to go, your goal is to go to work and do the best work you possibly do. And I think by having management take a step back, start looking at avoiding the stereotypes, creating an environment that we can learn from each other, maybe have, different people talk about something that they're really passionate about, within the workforce, have them, teach a class and, allow others to lead. You may have realized that in this world, one size does not fit all. People learn differently. And I think setting a clear expectations by the management, by allowing them to create an environment where mentoring and training will work, will close that gap. And that's what needs to happen. I think we need to stop thinking, oh, well, they're millennials, so they can't work, obviously, because, you know, they don't believe in work. They're sitting at the coffee shop with their man bun. You know, that's what you hear. And it's not true. And I think the problem is that, you know, we use them as jokes, or we see, you know, we don't think that, wait a second, you know, just like the video, that guy's like, wait a second, you guys took risks when you were my age. So it's not just me that's, you know, going through this. And I think if we take the step back and have management really create that environment, I think that generation gap will close. Or not, again, it can't be completely closed, but it will at least, you know, make it so small and so insignificant that the goal will be to have a better understanding of each other, an understanding of your workforce, and an understanding of your personal space and your office. Because I think in the long run, we're all here to succeed. We all want a positive work environment. We spend 8 hours with these people. We really should need to take the time and realize that rather than focusing on our differences, we need to recognize them, and we need to realize that knowledge is power. And if we utilize each other as tools as opposed as walls, I think in the long run, it will create a work environment that will be positive for everyone. Any questions? Anyone? Okay.
So I liked your video. I liked your message. It made me think of that creating that safe environment so that people can be leaders. Whether they're, you know, whether they're a millennial or a baby boomer, you know, kind of bridging that gap. It really would. It helps to knock down the stereotypes, and then just to match those people up and allow that safe work environment so that everybody can communicate and hopefully learn from each other. I mean, if everybody is sharing the same goal, there might be more than one way to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Effective communication is key. Everybody communicates differently. Of course, you know, you're older, your traditionalists, your baby boomers, they're going to definitely have that more of a authoritarian approach because that's what they were taught, you know, and their communication styles, you know, is completely different though than say, a Generation Y or millennial who want to be heard and want to feel like what they have to say is significant. And I think that's something that it's harder for other people to see, is that, you know, when you come from that, well, this is the way we do it, you know, that
this is the way it's always been done, and that is how we're going to continue to do it.
Doesn't matter if it's right, but that's the way it's always been done. And I don't care if you don't if you have a better way of doing it. And
it's the historian approach, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. A historic, you know, if you look at the historic, we don't look at what we've made, the mistakes we've made in the past. We're just going to keep repeating them. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to take the time to understand each other and to realize that you're not always going to, you know, there's always be a changing time and things are always evolving. The way we do business is different. I mean, compared to, 1960s, you probably wouldn't have had, you would not have the diversity and the uniqueness of everyone that's in our office. Everything was go in, sit down, do your work, which I get that's the way it is, but you have to change with the times. And sometimes you hit that wall and it's hard. So the communication style is key too, is recognizing that not everybody's going to instant message. Not everybody's going to want to do an email. They would rather sit down and talk to you in person. or, you know, or let me send you a memo as opposed to an email because they prefer the more form. You know, again, like I said, it's that everybody, not everybody fits, you know, not one size fits all. And unfortunately, if everybody doesn't always, you know, take in consideration other people, and that's when the conflict starts to happen between the different age groups.
Well, even some people like to kind of dig their heels in the sand and they don't want to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, you know, part of it too. Because it's like you can present them with a way to do something easier. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to fax it.
Yep.
Okay. We'll get those documents in 2 to 4 hours uploaded. Or you can upload it in like 30 seconds and I'll have the order released in like probably 10, 15 minutes later, but we'll do it your way.
I work for the tax agency for the state of California, and in May we had a completely new system. And that not only was it for us internally, but the way people file their returns, like for businesses for sales and use tax returns, is completely different. And so I've been helping out in the one of the departments where where people call in the 1-800 number, and you can tell the difference between someone who wants to learn and someone who just wants to get their return filed and just be done with it. They're like, your old system was fine. Why did you have to get a new one? Well, the old system, we were running out of memory. You know, things were slower. And they're like, well, no, it was just fine. You know, but unfortunately, you're right. There's people who just don't take change well. And that's a problem. And that's, again, I believe a lot of that has to do with management, you know, on a small, you know, when I'm talking about change, you know, within our departments, you know, that has a lot to do with management and how they handle change too. You know, do they implement a training program that will help those who don't want to learn as much, but have to, because otherwise they're not going to be able to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I luckily have a new manager in my office, and she's actually sending out, because of our new program, some people are more comfortable with it than others. Because like me, I'm doing something great by working the call center and doing my normal job when I get a chance to. You know, I'm learning different parts of the system that some people don't know. So it's allowing us to, you know, bridge out and cross-train, which again is very important. And I think that if management takes the time and really sculpts that and, you know, makes it, I don't want to say mandatory, but really, you know, mandatory volunteering, it really tries to build that community, I think that in the long run can only help the organization.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like, and as tech savvy as, or just electronic as businesses are, which is great, but I remember a time when, you know, like credit cards were, you know, and what would you do if your system went down? People like me have that knowledge of workarounds and how you can help solve a problem. And so it's so important to be able to give some of that historical, like, hey, I have a solution, or I have a workaround, because this is how we did it before this technology part, you know, came into play. You know, where you know, you can save the day somewhat, or, you know, even at like a hospital, get a piece of paper and handwrite what happened until EMR comes back up. What? I have to write something with ink?
We call it downtime, and there's some people, they just don't let work. They're like, nah, you take the day off. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, like that scares them. Like, I don't want to do anything manually.
But, you know, like, you know, but if you were in an environment that, you know, that created a, you know, not such a negative outlook on things like that, you think people would be more willing to, Brian, do you think that people would be more willing to actually try something new?
Again, though, that's where the change.
Yeah, the change is always hard. And I think with those people, the way I've experienced it a lot is because it's not always older people. Sometimes older people are the ones who are down with it. Sometimes the younger people are like, no, enough change, enough is enough. And it really takes a manager to be like, I respect why you think this is important, but we're doing it anyway. And you can't really give them the option.
Yeah.
But you also, I've had managers in the past too who have had the coworkers say, like, either it's like, okay, as their coworkers, you make sure they do this, and that never ends well, right? That's terrible. It's got to be the manager saying, no, you're doing this, and here's why you kind of have to,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, especially when you are trying to integrate a new system on who falls in line and who doesn't. Because you're right, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes people are down. Even though an older person is willing to take it on, but and it's less likely. Especially if you're on we call it the retirement track. I mean, if you got a year left, trust me, you're not engaged as much as someone who has 20.
Where I work right now is really great because the older people will tell the younger people, you definitely have a better idea, but I mess it up every time I try to use it. So can I just have you do this for me and I will do this other stuff for you? And it's kind of like you were describing. It's a really good, efficient work environment.
Oh, that's nice. It's like a co-op.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's cool. Like, I like that idea, that shared, but again, they both have the same goal.
Yeah.
And they're balancing out what they're comfortable with doing. So if the goal's being met, does it really matter who's doing what?
I wouldn't think so. I would think that would be something that
only if their work significant other quits.
Oh.
Then there's might be a problem.
Yeah.
But Lucy always does this. Well, I'm not Lucy.
I feel like this just got strangely personal.
Lisa, it's funny because the 2% you talked about, the place I work, 20% of our employees fall in that category.
Interesting.
Really?
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So the majority of our employees are around 80 years old. They just never quit. It's union, so they just stay there forever, and it's like their life. So it's really, really hard to make a change, and really hard. I'm one of the youngest people there. Everybody that works under me is far older than me. So I've struggled a lot by what you're talking about, and my work does nothing to help with that. So they could really benefit from your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
And Lisa, this is Joseph. I don't have my camera working, and that's probably very well because I'm literally at a Starbucks drinking my chestnut praline chai tea while tying up my man bun. I like your comment there. So I'm glad my video is not working. You can guess my generation. But jokes aside, I do want to compliment you. You present very well, especially when you talk, directly from your heart and your mind. You don't seem at all nervous. You obviously own the material. You're very passionate about it. And I wrote down this key word. I circled it a couple times, and the word is inclusiveness. And I think that definitely will be sort of your management style. It's obvious that you said management starts sort of like that tone from the top, and that everyone deserves to be felt included and valued and given the opportunity to achieve their best. So I compliment you on that, and I think a lot of leaders could take a page out of your playbook when it comes to inclusiveness. So thank you for talking about that, and I'll be sure to put it in the comments.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I'll probably go get a haircut after this. Thank you.
Oh, no. Sorry about that. I wasn't trying to offend anybody, I promise.
Tune into my presentation. I'll be clean cut. I'll grow out a mustache. I'll look as old as I can.
You're awesome. That's fantastic.
No, but hand on heart, great job.
Oh, thank you so much, Joseph. Well, on that note, If anybody doesn't have anything else to say, I'm going to end it. And thank you very much for your time. And any other questions?
You did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right. Thank you very much. All
Thank
right.
you, Lisa. That was great.
Oh, thank you. I will see you guys on somebody else's, I'm sure.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you,
Bye,
Lisa.
Lisa. Thank you.
I laughed a
Bye-bye.
lot too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.